Did Kevin Holland have a meltdown mid-fight, or had his mouth just been signing checks that his hands couldn't cash? Khabib was in the building. What does that portend? We got news about John Jones possibly fighting Stipe or Ngannou, and a couple great fights to talk about on the card as we break down UFC Vegas 22, Holland vs. Brunson. Let's go!
UFC Vegas 22 went down Saturday, March 20th. That was Kevin Holland versus Derek Brunson. This is a middleweight bout that went down.
Yeah, it went way down.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of hype heading into this fight about Kevin Holland. Fought 5 times in 2020. He's on a 5-fight win streak.
And not was that within a year. That was within 10 months.
Yeah, he's been putting in work.
Unreal, yeah.
And his hard work has finally earned him a main event spot. And I love watching Kevin Holland fight.
Yeah.
He's fun. He talks constantly. He's funny. And he is a really good fighter. And we thought that this was going to be his shot to really put his name out there and start getting in title contention talks.
Yeah, and I don't think we were the only ones thinking that. I believe that this matchup was set with the intentions of bringing up Holland to the top because of how exciting his fights have been and how he's just been creating so much buzz during this empty arena era that they gave him that shot.
They were like, you will sell. Here, take this main event.
Yeah.
And they gave him Derek Brunson, a tough fighter who's been around for a while, but I have always looked at him as a worker. They put him in there when they want to build somebody off him. Yeah, he has names over top opponents like Machida. He just took out Shabazian, but I saw the UFC giving Holland Brunson as a gimme. Like, here, take Brunson out. You're going to be in title talks.
Yeah, and Brunson, man, I gotta say, he's been handling this well. This is the second fight that they've given him where he's fighting down, and he said it best himself. Like, he was really hoping to get a top 5 guy. And who did they give him? They give him someone who's coming up with all this heat behind him. And he's like, all right, time to get to work. He didn't even bat his eyes a second time. So, like, really gotta give it to him for that. Like,
yeah.
A lot of people probably wouldn't have taken that fight, it being in the position that Derek Brunson is in.
But he did take the fight, and it turns out pretty smart move because Holland, like we're saying, he had all this set up for him,
yeah,
and he blew it. Now, I love watching Holland fight because he's unorthodox,
yeah,
excellent fighter, and he talks to his opponents constantly. He's got a playful feel in there, but he's dangerous. This fight, either his strategy went horrendously wrong on him, or it could be like Dana White was saying, he had a mental breakdown in the cage on fight night.
Yeah, I mean, we have a quote from Dana White saying that it reminded him of Lennox Lewis versus
that guy who lost his stuff during the fight and started crying.
Yes.
That guy.
Yeah. So he compared it to that, like just having like maybe just getting caught up in the hype or just having 6 fights, not even within a year. Like,
see,
has anyone thought of that? Just being burnt out. Kevin Holland, along with someone like Chimaev, right? You think about this past year, you think about, they're kind of like piggybacking the UFC to #1 during this time where everyone was kind of just looking at the UFC because they were at the forefront of holding live events.
Yes, but I think they were rewarding Holland for his work. They were giving him this main event shot. Yeah. With a fighter that he might be able to beat. But what does he do? He comes in and just loses it. He just completely languid with his movements, wouldn't try to get off the ground, wouldn't defend a takedown. He had his moments, but he either had a lapse in strategy or a full-on breakdown. And if you look at his behavior fight week, he's weird already, but he's kind of been acting weird all this fight week.
Yeah, a little more weird than usual, saying things that kind of made us, like, scratch our heads.
He's smacking Brunson in the ass at the weigh-ins. He's talking about bringing sex toys to the fight. He's behaving bizarrely.
Yeah.
So, now what Joy was saying, all the pressure, fighting so much, maybe it got to him. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, it's
but
a stressful situation. Think about like Cowboy, who fights so much, like, and he'll have like strings of wins, and then when it's laid back and it's like, yeah, just take this fight on 2 weeks notice, take this fight, it's a little more relaxed, and you just see Cowboy go out there and be Cowboy. Similarly to Holland, you give him these fights, yeah. Now he's headlining a card, just like Cerrone gets those title shots and he shits the bed.
Yeah.
I kind of put him in the same category.
I didn't see that parallel, but now that you bring it up...
I've just seen it now.
Whoa, on air. It could be something like that. As far as the actual fight went, Holland came out for the first round, threw a kick, slipped, was on his back. He didn't get up the entire first round. He didn't try to get up.
Yeah, very strange that he was just kind of holding Brunson down, and Brunson was doing what he needed to do to win the fight.
Yeah, and Holland was mitigating the damage on the ground. He wasn't eating too many shots. Brunson didn't look terribly impressive, but he was winning the round. Okay, round ends, they're back up. Second round, Holland comes in, hurts Brunson, goes to the canvas. That was his moment. He could have picked it up, right? He hurt him. He's got to go. Instead, he's still laid back. He's still loose. Back on the canvas. Doesn't get up for the rest of the round.
Yeah, and you would think his corner would give him, the advice that he needs, but what does he do in between rounds? He's got Khabib right behind him, sitting next to Uncle Dana, because they, had their little talk, which we'll get into. Mm-hmm. But Khabib's there. Khabib goes live on Instagram because he's just like in shock that Kevin Holland, instead of talking to his corner, is asking Khabib what to do.
Look. Now it's gonna be interesting. But I don't know, you have to stop his wrestling. Control your hips.
Holland's like, yo, Khabib, throw on the white jacket. Come coach me. You're the best wrestler. If you coach me, I won't get taken down. Let's go. Then he goes in for the next round. On his back. Now, the first 2 rounds, I thought this might be strategy on Holland's part. Let Brunson tire a little.
Tire him out.
And then start working in the third. But what happens in the third? More of the same. Holland doesn't try to improve position. He just attempts to block the shots, but he's not overly concerned. And now I'm getting concerned because I wanted Holland to win the fight.
Yeah, but what does he do? He shoots a takedown in the 5th round, and he's super happy about it because Derek Brunson has never been taken down in his UFC career. Maybe in his whole MMA career.
I think his UFC career, yeah.
We'll say UFC career just to be safe, but... Holland's more happy about that, and it's like, dude, you got to finish this fight. Yep. Every single round was not in his favor.
No, and he wins the 5th round on the scorecards, but he's laughing. He's like, oh, look, it's a moral victory. I took you down, Derek. No one else could do it. I could do it. He's like, Khabib, look, I took him down. Holland spent the entire fight screwing around in the octagon.
Oh, yeah.
When a situation was tailor-made for him to shine, and spent his breaks in between rounds talking to Khabib. You know what would have happened if Khabib was actually in his corner? He would have smacked the shit out of Holland after round 2 and said, now you need to go to work. I don't know where you're at. Pull it together. And Khabib would have given him detailed instructions on how to win the fight, like he was doing with Islam Makhachev in Makhachev's last fight out. Yeah. Holland's corner, what were they giving him?
I don't know.
They were talking to him, but no instruction. They couldn't control their fighter. They couldn't help their fighter. It wasn't a good look out of the whole Holland camp.
Yeah. But if you look at the way Holland responded to the fight, he's saying he had fun. He's happy he took Brunson down. He's not even concerned about title shots or anything like that. He just wants to fight and talk and do his thing. So, I mean, if that's really what he wants, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I don't think that's really what he wants, though.
Yeah.
If you look at it the way you just said, yeah, mission accomplished. If you look at it the way I'm looking at it, I think he had some psychological problems going into the fight, and they manifested on fight night, which is sad and frustrating.
Yeah. Now, where do we go from here with him? This isn't an end-all, be-all performance for Holland. It's not like he got completely destroyed. He got handled and controlled by a very excellent wrestler in Brunson. So where does he go from here? It's got to be he pulls it together and he really shines in his next fight. So this next fight is very crucial for him, and I'm sure his turnaround time won't be very long. That's kind of how he does. But maybe he should take a little more time off, really get himself together and figure out what he's doing, where he's going, and maybe reevaluate his goals. Like, he should want to get the title. I think he has the ability to do it. So do it, dude.
Yeah, pull yourself together. Come in looking to win. That's what I'd like out of Holland, but at the end of the day, it's up to him.
Yeah.
Now, Holland was asking for Khabib to coach him. There is somebody who Khabib might be coaching.
Yeah.
He might be coaching Luke Rockhold in Rockhold's comeback.
Yeah, Rockhold was interviewed sometime between the fights and when we're filming this, which is the next day. I believe it was TMZ Sports, and he was saying how he's got his comeback fight and Khabib wants to corner him. Now, this must be his next chapter. It's a great plan, a great strategy for him. He already has such an outstanding fighter in Makhachev to follow in his footsteps, as they would say. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like he's only going to go up from here. Do you think that he wants to follow in his father's footsteps?
I think, since you mentioned it to me yesterday, I think, yeah.
Well, now that he's officially retired, according to Dana White.
Yeah, Khabib said he was retired 5 months ago when he said it. Dana White said he was retired now. But I hadn't thought Khabib was going to stay close to the fight game after retiring. But if he's at the event, if he's talking about cornering Rockhold, he's going to corner Makhachev. Maybe he will take on a coaching role and help younger fighters get to the heights he got to in MMA.
And I think that is nothing but amazing for the sport to still have him in it. If he can give that to up-and-coming fighters, it's only going to make the game go up from here. So, I mean, I'm really excited for it. I hope he just corners people, even Luke Rockhold.
But that's besides the point. The point is, Khabib, great in the cage. He might be great in a coaching role. There was one more announcement made on this card that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
UFC 260 lost a fight. Ortega versus Volkanovski will not be happening. So now, the real attraction on that card is Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou 2.
And we have to just mention this because the hype packages and all the media surrounding this, they're writing the narrative that Stipe, and the odds also, say this is being corroborated by actual betting odds.
Yeah.
Stipe is the underdog. And I just, like, we're looking at each other and we hear it in the media and stuff like that. People are scratching their heads. Like, what is going on?
Because Stipe, he might be the greatest heavyweight fighter the UFC has ever had.
Yeah.
And he has never gotten the respect that he deserves because he's not a big personality guy in interviews. He just shows up to fight, he packs his lunchbox, he does work, and he goes home. But he happens to be the baddest man on the planet, the UFC heavyweight champ. And now they're giving Francis Ngannou another shot at Stipe. And Stipe is the underdog again.
When he handedly beat Ngannou in their first fight. Like,
Ngannou has a puncher's chance in this fight, the same as he had the first time he went in.
Absolutely. Maybe he'll have better conditioning this time, but I really feel like just the IQ, even with 2 more years under Ngannou's belt,
it's not enough time.
It's too far apart.
No. Stipe is going to steamroll him again. I'm saying it right now.
Yeah.
What this fight does, though, is set up something really interesting because potentially John Jones, who was moved up to heavyweight, could be fighting the winner or the loser of his fight.
Finally!
And I wouldn't care who he fought.
I just want to see him fight at heavyweight.
I would rather they give him the loser, which is going to be Ngannou, because I don't think he should get an immediate title shot at heavyweight.
Yeah.
But if they give him Stipe, if Stipe wins and they give him Stipe, that's a fight people have been talking about for years. That's a dream fight.
Yeah.
And
2 of the baddest guys on the block.
It's a chance for Jones to become the heavyweight champ too, champ in 2 divisions. It's a chance for Stipe to really bring up his name. If Stipe can beat Jones, people gotta give him respect, even if Jones is coming up from light heavy.
For real. I mean, John Jones does do a decent cut to make 205. So, and if you think about Stipe's size, he's not the biggest heavyweight in the world.
Not at all.
I really feel like this is going to be the fight of fights.
It might be amazing. But again, even if Jones doesn't fight Stipe, he fights Francis, that's another monster fight. They will sell the shit out of that fight. So, exciting matchups to be made after UFC 260 in the heavyweight division. Now, back to this card. There's some notable fights that we just want to talk about real quick. So, we're going to get right at you with them.
Yeah, that co-main event, man.
So, Max Payne Griffin fighting. Now, I've heard his name said Song Kanan or Kanan Song from different sources. I'm going to say Song. Fighting Song. That fight was a hellacious performance by Griffin.
Wow.
Brutal knockout.
The power, the spectacle, knocking out someone really tough like Song, like sleeping him. Face down.
Ass up.
Hands up.
Done. Finished. He wasn't looking good standing to hear the results read either. Hope he's okay, but...
Yeah, I believe they got him standing at some point.
Yeah, he was...
But,
oof.
yeah, Griffin, so happy they put a spotlight on this guy. He's been fighting for a while. He's been stringing together really impressive wins, kind of finding his stride. An older fighter and finding his stride at 35. Maybe he can follow in Jan Blachowicz' footsteps and...
I mean,
get some gold in his later years.
That would be best case scenario, but if nothing else, he's going to get a bigger matchup next time. So really good job on that, Max. Yep. And also, there was a women's fight on this card that we need to talk about because it was strange.
Yeah, and we didn't know all the story surrounding it, but basically when we watched the fight, it was Cheyenne Buys, who's coming up from the Dana White's Contender Series hype. Her and her hubby had amazing performances in that Contender Series, and they both made it to this Fight Night card together. So they're both premiering, so there's a little bit of hype behind that, like a little power couple vibe. So she's coming in with a little bit of hype, and she's going against...
Montserrat Conejo Ruiz. So a tough-looking woman, covered in ink, black metal neck tattoos, just
really
looks
cool
tough.
look, yeah.
Former wrestler, she trains with Victor Davila, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and she was coming in on like a week's notice into this fight.
Which we didn't know coming into the fight. So we're watching this without any backstory.
Yeah, and we were a little perplexed watching this by the time the fight got to the second round because Montserrat Conejo Ruiz was utilizing the head and shoulder throw where you grab over the head arm and you just kind of hoist your opponent to the ground.
Yeah, giving up your back in the process, which anyone savvy to that throw who would be maybe expecting it from their opponent would be, you know, working the defense to it, which is taking their back in a cool, slick fashion.
It's not something that you see often in high-level MMA. In the men's division, I can't remember the last time I see it. In the women's division, you see it in more regional circuits a lot. Yeah. Like Joy's saying, it's risky. But this seemed to be Conejo's main takedown into the Scarfo position.
Oh, yeah. Right into that. Good pressure, man. Yeah. She was putting good pressure on her. And I'm thinking, I'm here in the corner of Buys, and no real technical advice was given, and I'm like just scratching my head, like why haven't they drilled this into the ground? They knew they were fighting this woman. They know that she probably does this all the time because that kind of looks like her bread and butter. Why are they not giving her detailed advice to get out? And then we realize, oh, she only had 1 week notice.
They didn't know.
Yeah, so to us, we're like, man, this is like some very like not UFC caliber main card stuff. Technique doing the same thing over and over again reminds me of the early days of women's fighting with Ronda Rousey kind of going in doing her thing, but just a much less skilled version of that.
Yeah. So again, we're watching.
With 1 week notice, what else can you expect?
We're watching, scratching our heads, we're like, man, this really shouldn't be on the main card. I don't know. Fight gets to the third round, and Conejo is dominating. In the third, she got a little tired, and Baze was getting some offense in, but again, she's on the ground, and Baze was getting really frustrated, and towards the end of the round, you hear Baze screaming some stuff. The round ends, and a verbal scuffle breaks out. Conejo's leaning over, Baze is saying, I will follow you home, which, that's beyond about agreement. That's like some personal stuff, but things were getting heated, and we're just watching. We're like, man, this is not UFC material. This is low-level nonsense.
Yeah, very, very confused why this was on the main card. But then figuring out all the backstory, the 1 week notice, and then Buys being just extremely frustrated with getting owned with one move. Yes. So, I mean, it's on you to know how to get out of those things, whether it be elementary or not.
Yeah, if you don't like where they got you, you got to get out. Regardless, maybe don't be too quick to judge both women's performances off of this one fight, because they were fighting under a little bit of weird circumstances.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that happened on the card were weird, aka all of Kevin Holland's entire 5 rounds in the octagon. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, kind of like we're like in another dimension watching these fights.
Kevin Holland was in another dimension fighting that fight.
Maybe.
Guys, it is time for us to put up the featured comment. We're gonna box that right here. Wait, we're boxing it. We're boxing it right here. It's right here. I'm out of frame, but that's okay. Every week we pick the best comment from our last video and shout it out. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah, if you want to get shouted out in our next video, don't forget to leave a comment below. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, as always, in our videos. We got Kevin Holland's performance, Derek Brunson's performance. Is he a little underrated? What do you think about that? Does he remind you of those nose down in the grind guys like Stipe, who doesn't get their proper due? What about Stipe getting no recognition?
They need to put respect on his name.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And the fight coming up against him and Ngannou, the rematch. What do you guys think about that? Who's winning that?
Stipe.
Yeah, that's
Round
what we
3,
think.
TKO. Let's go. Guys, Fight Fuel MMA signing out.